With tariffs against Mexico set to go into effect today, we look at the impacts they will have on southern New Mexico. Plus, I'm joined by the Albuquerque Journal's two new business reporters, get to know them and their new beats. From the Albuquerque Journal, this is the leading news. I'm Gino Gutierrez. It's Tuesday, March 4th, and I'll have more on those stories, plus look at the Journal's other headlines and Albuquerque's weather forecast on the other side of this break.
This episode is brought to you by the Kirtland Partnership Committee. For 30 years, we've been dedicated to supporting, growing, and preserving the Kirtland National Security Complex. We work tirelessly to enhance military readiness, foster community partnerships, improve quality of life, and promote economic development right here in New Mexico. Join us in our mission to ensure that Kirtland remains a cornerstone of national security and a key provider of quality jobs and investment for all of Greater Albuquerque. Together, we can make a powerful impact. Kirtland Partnership Committee, proudly shaping the future of our national security for 30 years.
Late Monday, President Donald Trump confirmed that 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico will take effect today. This is despite previous delays in diplomatic negotiations. The move, which is aimed at pressuring America's closest trading partners to curb unauthorized immigration and drug trafficking, threatens to trigger a full-scale trade war as both Mexico and Canada have vowed retaliation. The tariffs will impact a wide range of goods, including 10% on Canadian oil. Experts warn this will drive up consumer prices on everything from food and alcohol to automobiles and electronics, while the White House insists that inflationary effects will be minimal. Economists and business leaders in states like New Mexico, where cross-border trade is a key economic driver, are sounding the alarm. Retired economist James Peach called the policy, quote, economic insanity.
Economically, there's almost nothing that will be positive out of this. If you look at the history of tariffs, the one thing tariffs brings is retaliation. And where does it stop? There's nothing. It's not good for the consumer. It's not good for business. It will dampen business activity. That's assuming that Mexico and Canada do what they promised, and that is to impose tariffs.
With no end in sight, companies are left in limbo, uncertain whether to stockpile goods, cut production, or pause hiring. Jerry Pacheco, head of New Mexico's Border Industrial Association, warned that tariffs could derail the state's booming trade industry, which saw a 140% rise in exports last year.
The border down here is finally fulfilling its role in terms of helping to diversify New Mexico's economy. We're adding billions and creating thousands of jobs. That is phenomenal. And these tariffs have the ability to put the brakes on further export growth. And it has the ability to put the brakes on good-paying jobs and attracting investment for New Mexico.
The uncertainty has already caused supply shortages and price hikes in materials like steel, stalling industrial growth. New Mexico had been making strides as a major exporter, but now with those tariffs in effect, many fear that progress is at risk. Businesses, consumers, and border economies now brace for the impact of a trade war that could reshape the landscape of North American commerce. The Albuquerque Journal and our business desk are excited to welcome two new reporters to the fold. I'm joined by one of them now, Justin Garcia. Justin, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we're very excited to have you here as well, Justin. What can you tell us about the beat you're going to be covering?
Well, so I've been hired to cover health and the national labs and their presence here in Albuquerque and really across the state, and really just document some of the changes that are going on both at the federal level, but some of the ongoing changes as well that have just been present here for a long while.
And prior to joining the Journal, what kind of work were you doing?
So before I came here, I was a reporter down in Las Cruces. I worked for two different newspapers down there. First, the Las Cruces Sun News, and then the Las Cruces Bulletin. And down there, I kind of covered everything, crime, government, happy things also.
So kind of a jack of all trades down there in Las Cruces. I'm curious, though, in this new role, what are you most looking forward to covering?
Well, yeah, actually, the thing I'd say I'm looking forward to the most is really diving into health policy and some of the things going on in the public health sector. I think public health is one of those things that really sits at the core of society and how people engage with each other and how they engage with their workplaces. And I think that's a space in which you can never do enough writing on, and I'm excited to contribute to that.
So, Justin, you're joining at a time where public health and also the national labs have a new spotlight on them, especially given everything going on here in the state. Very excited to see your work, and I'm sure our readers are as well. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Gino.
In addition to Justin joining the business desk, we also welcome Kylie Garcia, our other new business reporter. Kylie joins me now to tell me a little bit more about her beat. Kylie, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course, thanks for having me.
So, Kylie, what can you tell us about the beat you'll be covering here at the Journal?
Yeah, so I'll be covering retail and real estate for the Albuquerque Journal, everything from businesses opening to closing, what's going on in the real estate market, just everything that people have to reach out to about what's going on locally as far as all of that goes, businesses, small businesses, big businesses, everything.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of the more popular beats with our readers because we always want to know what's going on here in Albuquerque. But I'm curious, before you joined us here at the Journal, what were you doing?
So before this, I was a fellow at the Santa Fe New Mexican. I had been picked up by an organization called the New Mexico Local News Fund when they take college graduates, freshly graduated, and place you across newspapers across the state, really investing in local news. And so I graduated from New Mexico State University last May 2024. They picked me up, placed me at the New Mexican, and I was there for about 9 months.
Awesome. And what kind of work were you doing over there?
I was covering a little bit of everything. I was shared between the news side, Santa Fe New Mexican, general assignments, was the business reporter for about a 4.5-month vacancy, and then also was writing for Pasatiempo, arts and culture magazine stuff.
So kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything. I'm curious, though, in this new beat, what are you most looking forward to covering?
I'm just looking forward to shedding light on people's stories beyond just, we're open. Why are you open? What are you trying to achieve? What do you want the community to know about you and your mission? I'm just excited to shed those stories beyond just the surface level of we're open.
Yep, and it's always super cool to hear those stories within the stories and get to know our business owners a little bit more. I know I, for one, am really looking forward to seeing your work moving forward, and I'm sure our readers will as well. Kylie Garcia, the Journal's new retail reporter, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
If you like hearing all of the latest news from the Albuquerque Journal here on the Leading News, consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal. You can check our show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription and keep up with all the latest news from New Mexico's leading news source. In other headlines from the newsroom, as New Mexico's 60-day legislative session nears its end, tensions are rising between Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham and top Democratic lawmakers over how to reform the state's struggling child welfare agency, the Children's Youth and Families Department. While the governor insists that reform bills will pass before the March 22nd deadline, disagreements over the scope of the changes remains. Lawmakers, led by House Speaker Javier Martinez, are pushing for greater external oversight of CYFD, citing leadership turnover, staff shortages, and rising child maltreatment cases. Some proposals, including a constitutional amendment to create a CYFD oversight commission, have drawn opposition from the governor's administration. CYFD officials even urged foster families to lobby against the measure, arguing the agency needs more stability, not additional bureaucracy. At the heart of the debate is funding. The governor and CYFD Secretary Teresa Casados warned that the current budget plan, offering only a slight funding increase, could put the state at risk of violating a court-mandated settlement agreement. However, lawmakers counter that CYFD has struggled to effectively use past funding increases, and they are conditioning further support on measurable improvements, such as hiring more caseworkers. With around 30 bills in play, the coming days will be crucial for shaping CYFD's future. Proposals ranging from creating a child advocacy office within the Department of Justice to restructuring the process of selecting a CYFD secretary. As Lujan Grisham enters her final 2 years in office, lawmakers appear determined to push forward with systematic changes despite resistance from the governor's administration. With high winds sweeping across New Mexico, the Public Service Company of New Mexico, or PNM, is warning customers in fire-prone areas of potential power shutoffs to prevent wildfires. These planned outages, known as Public Safety Power Shutoffs, or PSPS, will be implemented when extreme weather conditions, such as high winds and low humidity, create a heightened fire risk. PNM's monitoring tools will determine when and where shutoffs are needed, affecting areas like Santa Fe, Ruidoso, Silver City, and the Mescalero Apache Nation. Customers will be notified in advance, but the exact duration of the outages will be determined on weather conditions. Once conditions improve, PNM crews will inspect power lines before restoring electricity to ensure there are no hazards, such as fallen branches. To reduce wildfire risks long-term, PNM is reinforcing its infrastructure by fireproofing wooden power lines, converting some transmission lines to steel, and upgrading aging equipment. The utility is also considering expanding underground power distribution, which already accounts for 40% 40% of its system, though higher costs have limited this to larger communities like Albuquerque and Rio Rancho. As of Monday, no PSPS events have been issued, but PNM is urging residents to stay prepared as windy spring weather approaches. Customers can sign up for alerts online or via text to receive real-time updates. PNM CEO Don Terry emphasized that community safety remains PNM's top priority as they work to balance fire prevention with reliable power service. And advocates in New Mexico are raising concern after the Bureau of Land Management, or BLM, postponed a key public meeting on a proposal to ban mining in the Upper Pecos watershed for the next 20 years. The proposal, initiated in December by former Interior Secretary Deb Haaland and former President Joe Biden, would withdraw mineral rights from over 165,000 acres of national forests and BLM-managed lands to protect the Pecos River from potential contamination. More than 50 community members gathered at the Pecos Village Hall, expecting to share their thoughts with BLM officials. When the agency delayed the meeting without rescheduling, the advocacy group New Mexico Wild stepped in, collecting letters of support for the mineral withdrawal. Advocates stress the watershed's cultural and economic importance, not just for Pecos residents, but for Jemez and Tesuque Pueblos, who consider the land sacred. The community's fears are rooted in history. The Terrero mine, which was operated until 1939, left behind contamination that poisoned local waters, killing more than 90,000 trout in 1991. In recent years, mining company Comex LLC has sought exploratory permits to mine gold, copper, zinc, and other minerals in the region, raising new environmental concerns. Pecos Mayor Ted Benavidez warned that mining could threaten the village's economy, which relies heavily on camping and fishing tourism. Lawmakers, including both of New Mexico's U.S. Senators and Representative Teresa Ledger Fernandez, have backed permanent protections for the watershed through the Pecos Watershed Protection Act. Despite the meeting's postponement, the public can still submit comments on the proposal until March 17th. Advocates continue to push for action, emphasizing that protecting the Pecos River is vital for future generations. Now taking a look at Albuquerque's weather forecast. Patchy blowing dust is expected today after 11 a.m., mostly cloudy with a high near 57. As for this evening, mostly clear skies are expected with a low around 30. To keep up with all the latest news from the Albuquerque Journal, you can visit our website at abqjournal.com. I'm Gino Gutierrez. The leading news will be back tomorrow.